Hello, welcome to the United Bias. I'm your host, Kiran Chetty, and with me today, Slide Nicarao and Ruben Bernier. Slide, start with you. How are you today?
Very well, thanks. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good here, Rubes.
Yeah, not too bad. Starting to get that new season fever loading.
Indeed, it is.
Can can
The
tell
the new
with
season,
him even wearing his jersey. It's not even game day
Huh?
or anything like that.
yeah, I mean,
Proudly wore it to the office today.
and of course, the new season isn't the only thing that's new today, lads. This is our first, I guess this will be our first recorded podcast, video podcast as well. So a first for us after in season three. So this episode goes up to YouTube a bit later as well, listener. In case you want to see that, if you prefer video, you will have that option available. Guys, I think let's start with just a bit of news and what's been happening the last few weeks. Since I know we did a quick little live stream, Ruben and I, on was it Saturday? But it's been a few weeks since our transfer show and maybe just touch on some of the key things that have happened since. Ruben, I'll start with you. What stands out to you in the last few weeks? Any one thing that you want to touch on?
Sure. I mean, we had the return of semi-competitive football. Obviously, Charity Shield always a bit of a strange game. Everyone wants to read a lot into it because obviously it's the first, as I say, kind of competitive game of the season. But by the same token, how much can you actually read into it? If I'm not mistaken, David Moyes won Charity Shield in his first game in charge of Man United. We saw how that ended up. So yeah, I mean, I still think quite an interesting game. We had our chat, the larger chat group going that all three of us are on, and there was all this talk about dominant Liverpool and how everybody else is in trouble, and of course the results swung at the end, and suddenly of course then the narrative goes, ooh, are Liverpool actually in trouble, and are all their big money signings going to work out? So it's quite strange how narratives can kind of shift and swing within even a single game, and how what's to some extent like a meaningless game kind of has already put a bit of edge to the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can interpret as such. It's funny, to me, these charity shields and super cups and all these sort of things, they're irrelevant unless unless Manchester United are playing. I just don't even bother. So it's
Yeah.
interesting hearing you talk about it. I hands up, I didn't watch it, but glad that Palace won another trophy. I guess Sly.
Yeah, I actually got reminded by a WhatsApp that came from a mate telling me that how did we let Dean Henderson go? And I think it was because of what he was doing in goals. And then when I decided to then eventually switch, I was now watching the Arne Slot post-match interview. So yeah, that goes to show how much I really cared about the Community Shield that happened over the weekend. I actually had completely forgotten that thing exists.
No,
But I
full
guess
disclosure, I didn't actually watch the game. I was just following the banter, and watching it evolve back and forth through the course of the scoreline changing.
okay, all right, yeah, I know. I wasn't even paying attention to the group that had all those messages. I think I read that group the day after, which had a ton of messages on it, obviously because of that. But yeah, that's what it is. I think for me, the highlight over the past couple of weeks, obviously this the quick signing. I think the whole Benjamin Sheshko saga with United obviously getting over the line. Him being presented to Old Trafford over the weekend in the final preseason match against Fiorentina. I also quite liked David De Gea being back at Old Trafford and then finally being presented with something that he should have received before he left. At the end of his career at United, I think that was quite a moment. You could see the guy was very emotional as he was being presented by Bruno Fernandes. But yeah, I think for me that's pretty much it. I mean, I haven't been really paying attention to everyone else apart from all the stuff that's being mentioned in and around Manchester United over the last couple of weeks or days, which is a lot of rumors, and we are obviously hopeful about some of the things that we've been hearing in the rumor mill. But yeah, that's pretty much what's been sort of focused in terms of what, and anyone that I talk to who's a United fan has been mentioning, the big B word and the potential of what will happen should he, come to United. But that's obviously not something that's happened. It's obviously been spoken about a lot, but certainly has been the highlight of my last couple of days in a lot of conversations I've been having about Manchester United. But yeah, I think.
Are you a believer? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, of course I am. I am just not Justin Bieber.
Just as a reminder, that was my number one wish. Transfer. I can't remember. There was the squad review video, the season, like the squad review, and we said 3 players we would sign. That's my number one wish. But anyway, nothing's materialized. And it could all just be conjecture. So as of today, Manchester United look like they're going to go into a season with no midfield. So should make for interesting games and interesting scorelines. All out attack, no midfield.
Yeah, I don't know. It's for the longest time we've been mentioning midfield. I think it's now quite a distant sort of memory. The last time we actually got a midfielder that came on and changed the entire squad. But yeah, we live in hope. We live in hope.
The thing is, you can talk about this kind of like all-out attack and a bit shaky at the back teams, but I don't think those teams work without a midfield. We've seen that teams can just outscore you, but the problem is you're not outscoring anyone if you don't have a midfield, because how are your attackers getting the ball? So yeah, I don't even know if that is like a realistic result to say, okay, we'll concede a bunch, but we'll score even more. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I think we're jumping ahead of things here. Anything else sort of noteworthy in the last few weeks? I mean, it's been relatively quiet from a signing perspective in terms of major business, hasn't it? I mean, Liverpool made a lot of their moves early. Of course, they've tried to get Isak. It hasn't happened as yet, or hasn't materialized at the time of recording. I guess Arsenal getting Gyökeres, that wasn't confirmed the last time we recorded. I don't think
it wasn't. No.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you. Let's go to you on this one. How do you feel about Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal, and could he be the missing link?
I think for the longest time I've been saying that the striker is for Arsenal specifically, especially with my predictions of seasons gone by, that if Arsenal get a striker, then things will change. They'll turn it up a notch. It's the missing piece. They've now signed Victor Gyökeres, and the thing is, everyone around them is also doing some pretty decent business, right? So it's not to say that they are now the sort of higher power in the sense of, they've now got the missing piece and everyone else has sort of stayed stagnant. The likes of Liverpool have also sort of strengthened, their attacking line. So it's not to say that it now does it for them, but certainly get them a lot more goals than they were lacking from a front row perspective, because there was a massive reliance on Saka from a goals perspective. Havertz is not an out-and-out 9, so where does he play now? With Gyökeres now coming in, is he now the replacement? They've still got Jesus there, so squad depth probably a thing. But yeah, I think if he carries on that trajectory, obviously he's coming from the Portuguese league, so we have to take his ability in the Premier League, because it is the toughest league in the world, with a pinch of salt. Is he going to get those numbers as high as the 50s that he was sort of raking up for Sporting? Probably not. But if he gets even half of that that makes quite a hell of a difference, right? So I think it could be that edge that Arsenal needed from a goal scoring 9, and it could just give them that edge. But the guys around them have also strengthened, so it now boils down to them, how they fare against the opponents that have actually strengthened as well.
It doesn't seem like there's been a lot of news in the last little bit, and transfer-wise, that is, a lot of things, deals falling through, a lot of Newcastle missing out on players. That trend seemed to continue, which has been quite funny through the season. But I mean, it seems like a lot of teams got major business done early this time around. Of course, there still might be some big incomings here and there, and maybe Liverpool do end up getting Isak after all. Before the season closes. One of the things, though, let's go to Ruben on this. Ruben, on one of the things that really I find perplexing is Victor Osimhen to Galatasaray. Like,
I think that's right. Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? Like, what world do we live in where arguably the best striker in the world, not named, I don't know, Harry Kane or Haaland, is going to Galatasaray in the prime of his career?
Yeah, it's definitely like a bit of a eye opener. I mean, look, maybe less surprising given that already last season, he sort of got shipped off to this Turkish league. I mean, I think it goes there's maybe two interpretations. One is that it goes to show you that league maybe is like a rising power, and that it has, with what I understand, a fairly significant amount of government backing. They just suddenly like find themselves with the kind of financial ability to compete, and you even see them drawing in coaches like Jose, maybe not at the peak of his career, but so look, I think maybe part of it is just that, yes, it is undoubtedly an up-and-coming league, and I think a league that's got, compared to something like the Saudi Pro League, it's got the advantage of European competition, which will still continue to be a draw, and it's got a little bit more history in terms of like its major. We know who the major clubs are, your Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and all of them. So it's not like to that extent, like, makes some sense, but yeah, to have a player like that in the literal prime of his career, I mean, I think he scored basically at a goal a game last season and hasn't been picked up, for any of the other leagues. Maybe then just also goes to show you that we're moving away from the era of difficult prima donnas with outlandish wage demands being just like picked up by whoever. I think teams are being a lot more, Man United perhaps a good example of it, but but not the only one, where teams are being very, very careful about personality, attitude, application, and you have to ask yourself, is that maybe something that Victor Osimhen would struggle to demonstrate, in another league? So yes, his raw talent is enough to carry him through in Turkey, but I think a lot of teams are sitting and going, we just can't bank on him having the right, non-technical traits to sort of succeed in another league. That's maybe my two possible takeaways.
Just for clarity, I looked up the UEFA league coefficient, and Turkey are 9th. The Turkish league is 9th. So just for context, it's at the moment England, Italy, then Spain, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium, and then there's a massive drop off. Belgium's coefficient is at like 51.7, and Turkey's is 41.8. So it's a massive drop off to them down in ninth place. So yeah, some of the points you made might be relevant. Government funding, getting to play in Europe. I don't know. I just find it bizarre. I find it like career suicide, if you will, to do that. I mean, it's almost the equivalent of going to to the Saudi league at the peak of your powers. Like it just makes no sense. But yeah, that's Victor Osimhen for you. Okay, let's get into actual meat and potatoes of the show, lads. We're gonna do a preview season prediction of the Premier League, and should be interesting. So we've all come prepared with there's a bunch of questions that we all have answered independently, and now's the time where we share it and mock each other for the choices. I'm going to start with Slide. Slide always brings a lot of color. Slide, which 3 teams are getting relegated and why?
Yeah, so I think the 3 teams that I've always been the one to choose random teams over the years in terms of the teams that are getting relegated. But I think the pattern over the years that I've done that has proven to be that the teams that get promoted get relegated. Right. So I think Burnley for sure goes back. I don't think they've got enough sort of firepower and also defensively. I think they're going to leak goals. So that's one for sure. Sunderland, in as much as, yeah, it's going to be tricky, but I think they go back down. And I was torn between Wolves and Leeds, right? But I think I'm gonna pick Wolves in this particular instance. I think Leeds is just gonna do just a bit enough to stay up. So it will be Wolves, Sunderland, and Burnley to go back down to the Championship. That's the way I see it.
Okay, I mean that's an interesting take. I mean, I know in the last season, I think a few of us thought Wolves would struggle and would be there and thereabouts. And of course, they had that disastrous start to the last season with I think when Gary O'Neill was still in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow obviously just turned it around when Pereira got appointed. So yeah, interesting. Also, I guess you could losing their best player in Cunha, losing their best, I guess you would call a wing back in Aït-Nouri to City. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big quality drop off. So fair argument. Ruben, what do you have for us?
Right. So yeah, unfortunately, I think it might end up with the exact same 3 as Slide. But I'm happy to back up my logic. So I've found some pretty interesting stats, which is that in the last 2 seasons was, first of all, only the second and third time in the history of the Prem that all the promoted clubs also got relegated. And not only that, last season was the worst combined points total of promoted teams, and the season before that, the second worst. Of course, the slight outlier being the season when I think it was Fulham, Bournemouth, and Forest came up. They really shot the lights out and had, I think, like the 4th highest ever combined total. So, but it's a bit hard to draw a trend. But certainly, if we're taking a look at the trend of the last couple of years, we're finding that the relegated teams are really, really struggling, like massively more so than previously. And it feels like the barriers to entry are really significant at a time when there's a lot of money coming into the various teams in the Premier League, and teams are able to strengthen. So, yeah, I think for that reason, we're just seeing that relegated teams are struggling to stay up. And it's there's an extent to which, of course, how well those promoted teams did in the Championship, to an extent, does inform their likelihood of staying up. But some of the best points totals ever have still not been good enough. So you can't always draw an inference that, well, just because they had a dominant performance like both Leeds and Burnley actually in the Championship this last season, that necessarily will translate. Having said all of that, as kind of like what I thought was just a fairly interesting exploration of the sort of trends, I do think Sunderland just they scored, I think it was 100 points flat for Leeds and Burnley, and Sunderland came in like 70 odd points. So that already tells you that even in the Championship they're significantly weaker than those two. I don't think they've strengthened enough. So I think Sunderland guaranteed down. Burnley, then, funny enough, they are the team with the highest points total in the Championship, that got immediately relegated, which was 101 points. And last season they scored 100. So I'm again going to call them for a straight bounce back down. So yeah, Sunderland, Burnley. I think Leeds have strengthened quite well, and may talk about them in a later segment. So I'm actually not going to call them I'm not going to call a clean sweep of teams going down. I agree with Slide. Wolves have been absolutely massacred in the transfer market. Already significant underperformance and sort of heading in a sort of southerly direction generally in terms of performances and a lot of management around the club. They've been bleeding players even in previous seasons, Netos, etc. So I'm just not seeing the replacements coming in being good enough. So yeah, unfortunately sticking same as Slide, Wolves, Burnley, Sunderland.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, with Slide, I think that seems sensible. And I think there's a bit of a trend here. I'm also picking Leeds to stay up somehow, but I'm going in a different direction to the two of you. So yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, and Burnley have Scott Parker in charge, which I think is a recipe for disaster in the Prem. He's proven time and time again. They also last season they fluked their way to a decent points total with just hardly they overperformed XG. Is it XGA, expected goals against, by like a ridiculous amount. There was a time where they didn't concede a goal for, I can't remember, it was a preposterous amount of time. I mean, James Trafford, they made him look like, I don't know, prime Peter Schmeichel. It was just ridiculous. So yeah, for those reasons, those two teams go down. Where I differ is Wolves. I mean, I could see it. I could get your argument. I just think they'll probably have enough. And I think the second half of last season, they showed more than enough quality to stay up to be a mid-table team. Even with the loss of Cunha and Aït-Nouri, I think they might be fine. I'm going for Brentford. I'm going Brentford to go down because, I mean, yes, they've lost Damsgaard, a good player for them, and they've lost Brian Mbeumo, who their most influential attacker. You could argue their best player, I think, quite comfortably. And most importantly, they lost Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank has been there at Brentford he was at Brentford for many years, got them up all the way through to the Championship, and then a couple of attempts eventually up into the Prem, right? He is Brentford. And I think a big part of what makes them successful or has made them successful is, yes, smart recruitment, but a manager who dovetails nicely with that recruitment, not one who looks for excuses or, tries to play systems that don't suit his players. So I think for that reason, he's going to be a huge loss, and we don't know how they're going to recover or they're going to react without Thomas Frank. The next layer of intrigue to the Brentford situation is who they hired to replace him. Who I didn't know. I didn't even know who the guy was. I was like, who is Keith Andrews? And I had to look him up when I heard he was appointed. And I know why. And then I figured why I didn't know who he is. It was because he was a set piece coach. He's never managed at the top flight. So he was Brentford's set piece coach. So there's a lot of risk there, right? Like either, things could go spectacularly wrong, or maybe he's excellent. Maybe he's just a savant and it goes okay. But for that reason, losing Thomas Frank, losing a couple of key players, we've seen it with, Arsenal and United and all these other teams where you lose stability, you lose that powerful figure, and things go, fall to pieces sometimes. So for that reason, I'm going Brentford.
I was about to say, geez, guys, this is not going to be fun if we're all agreeing. And our predictions are so similar.
Yeah, and we're not. We're not. So, yeah.
Yeah, we need some spice.
Yeah, no.
There you go. Yeah. Brentford to get relegated. Go to the bookies. Put your house on it. Okay. Don't put your house on it. I wouldn't. Just to be clear, it's a joke. Top six. Let's start, Ruben. Let's start with you. You want to start 6 to 1? You work your way up, or do you want to go 1 to 6?
It kind of gets it's easier going down because it starts getting muddier. So maybe let's start at the top.
Okay, do you want to start at one and we all give our one? So you start with your one, give your reasoning, and then move on to slide, and then maybe that we do it that way. Yeah.
Okay. or we can start at 6 and build our way up.
No, but it kind of spoils the reveal, right? One is,
I suppose. Yeah. Okay.
Look,
so my number one then in that case is I'm banking quite hard, and it's probably gonna go through a few more of my predictions, but I'm banking hard on a big City resurgence. It feels like it's going to be, when Man United were dominant and did like a three-peat and then had like one blip season and then we're back at it again, our 4 and 5, it feels like it really should be that. They've recruited really well in the last 2 windows. I think Rodri's probably going to be back and firing this season. I think probably they got stung last season and are going to come back in full force. My money for now is on a City resurgence.
They've lost quite a bit of creativity in the middle of the park there. So okay, I'll take your.
Yeah, look, I mean,
I take your reasoning. I totally get it, and you're basing it on the other side of Manchester and how they used to do things, which is all right.
Yeah,
but yeah, okay. I guess because it is a competitive league, it might just not play out that way. My take on number one hasn't changed, and it's going to stay. For the last 3 seasons, I've called Arsenal, and I'm going to back them again for the last time.
What's that saying? Fool me once.
Fool me 4 times. I'm an Arsenal fan.
I'm backing Arsenal to take the Prem. Purely based on backing my historic statements of they need that out and out goal scorer. They've now got one in Victor Gyökeres. They've gotten in Zubimendi, who's come in to sort of fill the shoes of that talisman in the 6 role. So he's come in. He's going to play. Declan Rice is going to push up a lot more. So there's going to be quite a number of goals coming in from the middle of the park, and it's going to be everyone chipping in. I think, I've mentioned in the past couple of recordings that, where there's still a bit of a gap with Arsenal is that left attacking forward. But that's not to say Madueke can't do the job. So you'll have Madueke and Saka on both flanks, and, Gyökeres in the middle of the park. And you've got Havertz, who's still got goals in him, and Jesus, who doesn't have goals, but he's got that pressing capabilities when they are sort of on the back foot, can come in and sort of do a shift. So I think Arsenal this time around will get it right. When we start talking about managers later on, you probably find that I'm going to say something totally different. But I think number one this time around, and they'll probably just edge it. And it'll go down to how they fare against the rest of the top 6 that we're going to sort of chat about.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, you're a believer, I guess, in Arteta and the project. Ruben, I'm with you. I have City. I thought City as well, which I thought would be a outlier take. I actually thought like at least one of you would choose Liverpool. So
Liverpool, yeah.
That's quite surprising. City for the reasons you mentioned. I'll go on to the second place team, who I think will finish second, and that's Arsenal. I think they're just a solid team. There's stability. You've added some spice in attack, a little bit of midfield, great defense. I think Arsenal finished second.
So because Ruben, you also think second for Arsenal?
No, actually. So I'll give mine in, which is Liverpool. The first time any of us has mentioned Liverpool in these picks. I think they're still an incredibly strong team. They've had some really good recruitment. Although that said, they've obviously had a lot of outgoings. You know, I mean, I think you can't not mention obviously Diogo Jota. You know, one of a kind, hard to replace players like Trent Alexander-Arnold out the door. Other one of a kind, but probably easier to replace players like Darwin Núñez out the door. You know, so you do have a bit of scope for maybe like some difficulty in all these players like settling in and a like pretty new look front line. You know, maybe like, you know, it's been a team that's worked and grown together so well that to have a lot of new ingredients in the mix might be tricky, which is why I don't have them as my first place team. But I do think they've just got the absolute quality to pull off second, probably relatively comfortably, I think, and probably will push City most of the way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in agreement with you on number 2, which is Liverpool. And I'm only not, and I only didn't pick Liverpool as number 1, purely because of that number 9 scenario, right? If that had been done, my choice would be totally different.
Yeah.
But I think as things stand, Liverpool at number 2, they've still got quite a bit of firepower going forward, despite Núñez and the unfortunate loss of Diogo Jota. So I think, look, Frimpong, I think he did score in the Charity Shield or whatnot. I don't know how deliberate that was, that goal, to be honest, but he did score a goal nonetheless. So they've got some form of reinforcement in Frimpong there in the right back, but I think Trent is something else, if we're being honest. So number 2 for me, Liverpool.
Is this the year that Mohamed Salah finally slows down? It's the other question. I've been predicting it for like 3 years, but
you just didn't want to say it, and then you went and said it.
I shouldn't have said it, because now he's going to be great again. Another 30-goal season.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about who do you guys have in 4th, Ruben? It's 3rd. Sorry, 3rd. Who do you have in 3rd?
Do the Inglorious Bastards thing.
Yeah, dry. Dry Glazer.
So 3rd place. I think Arsenal's then the fairly obvious pick. I mean, I think however they exactly come out, I think it's guaranteed basically to be City, Liverpool, and Arsenal in some combination in the top 3. It's just for me a bit of an unknown factor whether Gyökeres can transfer his Portugal form to the Premier League, which I'm sure he's going to score goals, just not as many as he needs to. And as I say, I think Liverpool and City have just strengthened sufficiently that even getting the supposed last puzzle piece for Arsenal isn't enough still to let them push on. In particular, because I think they just haven't shown the mentality for it. I think they've shown over a number of years now that they lack the killer edge. But 3rd, good enough for 3rd.
I have City in 3rd, but like you're saying, it's Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Arsenal, Liverpool. It's one of those 3 in the top 3. And purely based on last season, despite their reinforcements, I think that's as good as it gets for me in terms of City coming up in the top 4.
Yeah, and I mean, for kind of similar reasons, why I'm a little down on Liverpool. I feel like there's a lot of turnover in their playing 11, and we don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, essentially, you replaced both fullbacks. You've replaced your, I guess, depending on who's going to start, left-hand side and the man up top both get replaced. So whether that's Kitike or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Or if is that coming? We don't know because obviously there's no Jota, and then Núñez is gone. So I think there's a lot. There's a lot going on, and of course, Wirtz has to fit in somewhere. Like, does Wirtz play on the left, and then Ekitike play in the middle? Like, we don't know. So there's a lot of, while they're quality signings, I think there's a lot to gel, and they might have some teething issues there getting off the line, or maybe that's
and there's the Bundesliga question, of course.
Yeah, and we've spoken. I spoke about my reservations about Ekitike in particular, and his lack of physicality, and his lack of track record. Furthermore, so yeah, that's why I think Liverpool third, and then in fourth place I've got Chelsea. I think they just keep on signing. They so many like just amazingly talented young players, and it just doesn't stop. And there's news of still more incomings to go. So yeah, I think their spend is close to 300 million odd at the moment, and looks like it's going to continue. So they had a good season last year, overperformed. The squad with a really young squad. I think they a little more mature this season, yeah, I think Chelsea in for another strong season. Slide.
Yeah, I've also got Chelsea as fourth.
Ruben, the same?
I mean, same. I think while it's clear that the three are head and shoulders above, I think it's then also fairly clear that Chelsea are sort of materially above the rest of the chasing pack. I think obviously the Club World Cup stood their case really well. I was tempted to say that they're going to go tumbling down the league once they've signed Alejandro Garnacho, just because their squad harmony will be so disrupted. But I also think if there's any team that's basically immune to squad disharmony, given the obscene amount of comings and goings and ins and outs, it's probably Chelsea. But yeah, so I think Cole Palmer to fire them to a comfortable fourth place finish.
Okay, I mean, and that makes it quite interesting, because I think that is probably the most predictable. Given 1 to 3, that ended up being the most predictable one in our realm anyway. I think 5 is going to be interesting, and it wouldn't surprise me if there are 3 different teams in fourth place across the 3 of us. Ruben, start us off. Who you got in fourth place?
Yeah, just because a lot of the teams that might have traditionally been there and thereabouts have not had good windows, are looking like they're spiraling, and I'm thinking here of like a Spurs and the Newcastle, even some of your previous up and comers, your Brentfords, who you've got pegged for actual relegation, even your like Bournemouth type teams. None of those have been there and thereabout feel like they've materially strengthened. So I'm going to go with the one that's been consistently there for a while now, and that'll be Mr. Good Evening, Unai Emery's Aston Villa, to hang on to fifth place and kind of keep their momentum. Even though they haven't strengthened significantly, I still think they inherently have a pretty good squad, and I believe in Unai.
Okay, slide.
Well, I'll be damned.
Oh.
I have Aston Villa as fifth.
Okay, yeah,
this is why we don't pre-prep our answers, because then we have to stick to them and all have the same answers.
Yeah, it gets worse, boys. I also have Villa in fifth.
Oh my gosh!
And I thought that would be a wild take. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. That's well. Yeah. I guess we got the highest. They got to hold a lot of shares in Unai Emery. I guess. I guess it's as simple as that, right? Like, but to be fair, if you look at some of the competing teams, Newcastle in the Champions League won't be able to rest players in midweek. Villa will be able to cruise through the group stages, have a fresher squad, and they've just got a great manager. So a fantastic manager who can maximize his resources. So yeah, I think it makes sense. Sixth place, slide. We'll start with you. Who do you got? Also, sorry, before you answer, a little nervous here. Still no Manchester United, which is
come on. I mean, we finished 15th last season, and despite all these changes that have happened, it doesn't. You have to take baby steps. Baby steps.
Maybe 70 million here and there, right?
That signing will change my prediction of top 6. I think for me, 6th, I think we're going to be probably different about this one. I've gone for Eddie Howe and his Newcastle United as 6th. And this one is, it's purely based on the squad. I mean, I know they've fallen short, and United has gone and grabbed everyone that they've been linked with this window specifically. But I think they've still got a good squad. Pretty much their midfield, I think we were busy, going on and on and on about it last season. So they've still got a bit of a strong squad. But to your point, where they probably will not be in a position to comfortably rest and rotate, it now becomes a matter of what's priority for them throughout the season as they manage their squad and all that. But ultimately, I think if they were to reinforce between now and the end of the month, I think we'll probably sort of see a resurgent Newcastle fighting for the top 6. But yeah, I'm gonna back Eddie Howe on this one, and him continuing his consistency with this team. I think Eddie Howe is the new David Moyes in terms of trying to stay in that top 6 over the last. When Moyes was busy with Everton over the back in the day when United was dominant, it was always David Moyes playing in the top 6 consistently. I think Eddie Howe's that guy now.
Ruben, what do you got for us? Surely a bit more optimism.
There we go. It's time. Stripping off the hoodie. Proudly. For those who are listening and not watching, I'm now flashing my Man United shirt to the camera. I think we've done enough, probably Man United in this window to be able to push seriously for European places. I mean, if this doesn't work, then I give up. You know what I mean? I think then there's just no way to go from here. Burn it all down and come back with like Newton Heath FC in like a couple of years when we've thought about our lives. But yeah, as I said, I think like the big factor is the Baleba factor. I think probably even 6th or 5th or possibly even a top 4 run is doable with him there. But even without him, as I say, I think I do think last season was probably an outlier. It's like that year when Chelsea won the league and then finished 12th or 13th the very following year, and then I think we're back straight into the Champions League the year after. Sometimes you do get these weird yo-yo seasons. So I'm just kind of banking on that being the case. You've got Benjamin Sesko, potentially coming in as like a real superstar in the making. So I think there's a lot of reasons for optimism. I think
Bundesliga.
Sorry.
Where is Sesko coming from? What league is he coming from again?
The Bundesliga. The Bundesliga issue as usual. Yeah. Look, but that said, I think I saw the stats. He's the under 23 player with the most goals. He's the most goals of any under 23 player in the entire of Europe. And given that a lot of people say he's still got room to develop or he's still developing, I think that's like a super positive sign. So now I've switched from being all in on Ollie Watkins, and I'm now all in on Benjamin Sesko. So yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you believe in fairy tales, because I certainly don't believe that a team with no midfield can make their way up the table. I'm with side. I sort of went to Newcastle for similar reasons. Stability. Eddie Howe, while they may not have added too much firepower, they've still got an outstanding midfield in Gimaresh, Tonali, and Jolinton. It just works. It's a great midfield. And if they hang on, they still, as we record, they still have Isaac. So yeah, I think.
But Kieran, I think you're missing the most important stat, which is the 2026 Premier League Hopometer, which was a survey done by The Athletic, and Newcastle are sitting properly in 20th place with only 19% of their fans being optimistic and 81% being pessimistic. And to give you an idea, the next worst is Wolves at 32% optimistic, and most are above 50. So yeah, it's yeah, it's a little bit, what are their fans?
Yeah,
think?
it's the Isak factor right there. I think which is why they're sitting at 19% optimistic there.
I don't even think it's that slide. I think it's like
Hmm.
I think they're back in the Champions League and they had hopes. Oh, we're the richest club in the world, and you're like, okay, we're gonna spend money. We're gonna get these great players in, and at every turn, the person they went after chose United, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool. Like, I can imagine how frustrating it must be, right? Like you're fishing in the same pond as the biggest dogs in the land, as it were, and it's tricky. So rejection after rejection. So I don't think it necessarily indicates the optimism around their performance levels this season, but more the disappointment that they were unable to advance, perhaps in the way that they may have wanted to, perhaps like the way that Liverpool did. Just 100 million here, 100 million there, and so forth. But anyway, I digress. Is that our top six? Yeah. So our top six. So if you just aggregate of our results, we're predicting City in first, Arsenal in second, Liverpool in third, Chelsea in fourth, Villa fifth, and Newcastle in sixth. Out of interest, slide, where do you anticipate United finishing?
8th.
Okay, yeah, I'm around there as well, 7th, 8th. I think the one game a week does have a massive role to play. We do have a pretty strong squad, apart from the glaring holes in midfield. So yeah, one game a week, 7th or 8th, pretty much. Of course, we can address this if things change, if there's a midfield. But as of now, it's midfields win games, man. Like it's that simple. And then if we just to touch back on our relegation scraps, we said Sunderland, Burnley, and I guess the aggregate was Wolves. Is the prediction to go down? So yeah, will be interesting to revisit this at some point. The next couple of ones, let's just quickly go through it. Wild card of the season, lads. Slide, I'll start with you. What's your who or what is your wild card?
I went with the wildcard team / manager. I guess the team goes with the manager. For me, it's Crystal Palace. Again, I think they last season did pretty well. I think ended up obviously winning the FA Cup. They've started off the season with some silverware, with the Community Shield, the trophy, not a trophy. Then I think they've also got so Glasnow's come in and he looks to have steadied the ship, right? I think they're probably in for another top 10 finish, or they in for a top 10 finish if they remain on this trajectory. But that's obviously if they don't lose Eze and Mark Gay. I think that whole conversation ends if one of those two leave for greener pastures. So I think Crystal Palace for me and Glasnow are my wild card.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only reason why I didn't put them finishing sort of top, 7th, 6th, I would have thought it's possible if they weren't in Europe. I just think that the Europe, the additional pressures of Europe, and we've seen it time and time again. Brighton going into Europe for the first time and how they just fell in the league that season. You see it season after season. So that's the only thing. But yeah, I agree. Good squad, good manager.
They're going to be quite angry as well. Going to be quite angry as well for not playing in Europa. They've obviously been dropped to the Conference League now because of those things. So yeah, they're going to come out hungry.
Yeah, good. I was quite. They were one of the teams I flirted with for even top 6 and also this pick. Mine. You know what? I'm just because it might end up spicy, but let's say Leeds. Maybe this is the time they finally make it stick and become a new resurgent force. I just thought it's interesting that they made 7 signings so far, and the average height of those signings is 6'8". inches, which is kind of spectacular. They're just going for just deploy the brick shit houses and outmuscle everyone. So I mean, it could be interesting. As I say, they seemed they were pretty dominant last season in the championship. Not that I watched it, but as far as I understand it. So yeah, I think this is the sort of corollary of me not sending all three teams down in the relegation prediction, all three promoted teams. Then the flip side of this is maybe we'll see Leeds have a surprisingly good season and maybe cement themselves back into top flight a bit more solidly than has been the case recently.
Speaking of Leeds, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has reached an agreement with Leeds to go in.
There you go, unstoppable
as their lanky forward. As well, David Ornstein just released an exclusive story.
Well, there we go. There's an Oni bomber for you.
Yeah. So there we go. Another signing.
Yeah, another striker who doesn't score goals to go alongside their current strikers who don't, in Patrick Bamford, who doesn't score goals at Premier League level. Yeah, harkens back to Jose's Giants. Remember that season where Jose just signed all the big fellas?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jose's Giants. Yeah, exactly.
My wild card is Keith Andrews, because I think that's the wildest of cards, and like getting the promotion from set piece coach to Premier League manager, and I think that's going to be super interesting. And if my prediction's right, where they're going to be relegated or they're heading to relegation, he might be the first one out of a job if things go pear-shaped real quick.
I'm surprised none of us went for Thomas Frank, actually.
As what? As a wild card.
As the wild card, because I think it is quite unpredictable. Like you said, Kieran, I mean, not only has he always been Mr. Brentford and very strongly tied to that team, but we've also seen a Spurs team that's been very much in flux, but still with a lot of quality players. So it kind of has the potential to be spectacular, whether it's good or bad. So you could almost call it my second wild card is just that I think it's going to be highly unpredictable and highly entertaining from Thomas Frank.
Although I think I would argue that they were so bad last season, they can't get worse than that. When they were literally 17th, as bad as it is, without getting relegated, and they've been lost. Son's gone, Madison's out for the season or most of the season. Signings we've discussed. Kudus, we weren't particularly enthused by, and I think they signed João Paulinho on loan. So incomings haven't been great. I think, Thomas Frank's just a solid manager, and he'll be solid. But rigors of Champions League, not the best squad. I don't know. I don't know what you can expect. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Spurs surprise us. I don't know. On to player of the season. Slide. Who you got?
Yeah, this one is a tough one. So it's between. Yeah, it's between.
No between slide. We don't need betweens here.
It's if the gods go against the curse of Ruben Cronier for Mo Salah, I will pick Mo Salah as the player of the season. Let me not say between. I'll just back Mo Salah in this particular instance. Mo Salah for me. I think he's gonna have another high GA season. So I think on all fronts he'll maintain that. And that's why I'm picking him as the player of the season.
Okay. Ruben?
So mine's a little bit of hedging my bets, in as much as, I don't think Chelsea overall have the necessarily long, season-long consistency to finish top three. I think if they do manage to pull something out of a hat or have a really great season, I think it's going to be down to Cole Palmer. I really think that guy is an absolute wizard. yeah, so he's my pick in as much as I think if Chelsea do have an unexpectedly good season, it's going to largely be down to him.
Come on, Kieran, give us Bruno.
I wish I could.
Gumaresh or
yeah. Unfortunately, I can't do either of those because, like I said, I think City win, and I think the main reason for City winning is Rodri comes back and he shows everybody what's up and why he was the Ballon d'Or winner not too long ago, or is the current holder, right? And everyone's like, oh yeah, this is why they were bad last season. They missed this guy, and he shows everyone who's the best midfielder in the world. So I think Rodri's the guy, and while we're there, you know what, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to go straight to manager of the season for the same reasons. I think Pep wins manager of the season, and I think City run away with it. I think they do 100 plus nonsense seasons again and smash everyone. So there you go. Pep Guardiola manager of the season with 100 points.
Arteta manager of the season with 101.
Yeah, that's sure. Let's throw in Ruben Amorim.
For what?
Turning Manchester United around into an absolute force to be reckoned with.
Your sixth
75 points.
Your sixth place finishing team.
But if you took any team from 15th to 6th, that would be good.
Right. If you replaced, well, okay. Well, I think it's crazy. I think a Manchester United manager finishing 6th is not getting. I mean, Brighton did that the one season, didn't they, under De Zerbi? And he didn't get manager of the season. Gary O'Neill did a great job at Bournemouth, took them pretty high, didn't get manager of the season. There's no way a Manchester United manager finishes 6th and gets manager of the season.
Yeah, no.
I think it's delusional there, but you know.
Mikel with 101.
Maybe he's hedging.
Mikel,
maybe
101.
Maybe United end up like, I don't know, coming second and winning a few cups, and he gets it and he flukes it in, you know, even though he said United would get 6th. Okay. I think who's that? Just 2 awards left. Golden Boot. Pretty easy. I'm just gonna go again, City winning. Erling Haaland gets back to his best, smashes everyone. So I've got Haaland, Golden Boot winner.
Yeah, also got Haaland.
Come on, guys. Now I have to change my pick.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Look, let's make the assumption that Isak goes to Liverpool. Then fine. Isak takes it.
Yeah. You're also making the assumption that Isak stays fit, but yeah, again, I guess to mix it up, Isak, fair enough. And then,
but in fairness, my original call was Erling Haaland, just on the same logic as a resurgent Man City.
Okay. Clean sheet or goalkeeper, most clean sheets this season, Ruben? Who you got?
Yeah, I think it's hard to look past David Raya again. This is probably just going to be another clean sweep by us. But yeah, I mean, historically, yeah, Arsenal have been very tight. Good keeper, and I think we're all, you know, I mean, I think we all think Arsenal are going to do well. They're as we say, they're just going to fumble at some point in the last minute. But I don't think that means that they're not still going to be very defensively solid. Yeah.
Slide. What do you got? You also on David Raya?
Yeah, David Raya with
1-0 to Arsenal.
He's probably going to get 10 clean sheets, if not more. Yeah, it'll be him.
Okay.
And that's probably going to tip them. That 100 points that you're saying for City, that 101 is going to become that because of David Raya.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna go with Andre. Oh no, I'm gonna go with David Raya.
Oh no, Andre.
Yeah,
oh no.
No, it's not gonna happen. I mean, I think he's also injured. He might miss the first bit of the season as well. But yeah,
well, that means less goals conceded by him, right? So
yeah,
could end the season with 0 goals conceded.
Not most clean sheets, unfortunately. So yeah, it's going to be I probably think Raya's your guy. So yeah, there we go. Predictions. done. I mean, it's pretty weird. We didn't consult on these, and then we ended up on thinking a lot on the same lines, which is unusual. Normally, we're quite divergent in our predictions. So yeah, there you go, listener, viewer, guys. The season is upon us. Predictions are in.
Okay, predictions for Sunday: Manchester United versus Arsenal.
Oh, okay, can do that. Yeah.
Whoa. I'll go first.
Sure.
I think Arsenal 2-1.
United 1-1, 1-1 Old Trafford.
I was also thinking a draw. Let's make it 2-2 draw. Yeah.
Nah.
I don't know what logic
1-0
that's based on.
United.
1-0
to United.
Yes, there we go. Someone's
Okay,
loyal
all right.
here.
All right, listener, viewer, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week where we'll get into all of it, all the weekend's results, and hopefully, Super Cup time. That's going to be interesting this evening. Spurs and PSG. Are Spurs going to catch a 4 or 5 or 6?
It could be a hammering. It could be an absolute
hammering. I'm gonna say 3. They'll catch a 3.
Yeah, or does Thomas Frank bring one of those London buses and just parks it in front of that goal and manages to do it? He's done it with Brentford many a time.
It's gonna call all of them: Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Arsenal, all the Londoners.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. Okay, guys.
I wonder how often a team is competing in a Super Cup with a brand new manager. It seems
and finish 17th in the league.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
Okay. Till next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.